that you have the courage to leave this Soviet party. Come and try the United Party. You see, one of the greatest dangers. One of the greatest dangers anybody can find himself in is to be in a situation where somebody is waging a war against you and you are not aware. It's the greatest danger you can ever find yourself. You see, since the advent of the 15th century, since when those papal bulls edicts were evident, even when they have not had the opportunity of reading the preparations by Amazon, but you should go and read. Because beyond the books ability to open your eyes to global realities, you'll be educated so much, and you immediately find yourself realizing that a war is being waged against us, as in we, the so-called non-Christians, that we seem not to be aware of. And unless we open our eyes, rise up, and do something about this, you understand? Then what is happening in Iran? What has happened to Venezuela? What has happened? People talk about this as if it's now Norega, Vietnam, and there's so many aggressive acts by what I'll call the Germanic race. And see, when I say the Germanic race, when you read history, you read European history, what you could quickly realize is that in the same way we have tribes in Ghana, they also have tribes. So they have some people who are the Celts, they have the Slavic people, they also have the Germanic tribe. And with the Germanic tribe, there are 10 sub-tribes. You have the Angles, you have the Saxons, you have the Lombards, you understand? And these people have populated Western Europe. And you find them in Canada, in the USA, you find them in New Zealand, you find them in Australia, you also find them in South America. So when you go to South America, beyond the natives, you also have Europeans, and they are there. And these people are very resolute. They are very resolute in the war of dominance they are waging against the rest of us in this world. And this war they are waging, you understand, has the backing of Vatican through the papal bulls, because those edicts are still there, they have not been cancelled. Maybe we are not aware, but it's those edicts, the edicts that give them the right to conquer, to plunder, and in the so-called explorations. You understand? That thinking unites them. And so you find it very strange that Canada and America have been at each other's throat. But Canada quickly supported Americans' act of aggression against Iran. Oh, UK played some skirmishes, but UK are now, and I can bet you that all of Western Europe supports the aggression of the US, and this is why Trump agenda. It's Trump that probably has the audacity to act, but it's been the agenda of every American president, because we need to understand that it's a Western Germanic tribe agenda against the rest of this world. You see, we should say it in plain language and be aware and start taking steps to protect ourselves. Because today it is Iran. They did it to Venezuela. Very soon, in fact, that's why they finished us. Yeah, because there is a reshaping. So they've controlled the geopolitics of this world since the 15th century. And you see, and what happens is that they just tweak it, but at every point in time, it's still these Germanic people controlling the world. So it started with so right after the edicts, we all know that Portugal and Spain went on an agenda in dominating the world. They divided the world without consulting us. Spain take what's it called the West, Portugal you take the East, and they didn't mind. You see, when you go to the South America, to the Aztec areas, they welcomed them. And what did they do? They found great development, serious engineering civilization in what is currently Mexico. What did they do to them? The Andes. And you get a picture. They did same everywhere. And now all what happens is that Portugal was the global superpower. It came to Spain. England, what was it called? France took over. England took over. And then right now the US is taking over. So you take the last century, and there have been about 4 or 5 key issues. What all those issues did was to rotate global power within the same Germanic people. So you take the First World War. You mentioned the First World War. I don't want to go too back into the Napoleonic Wars and all those things. Let's just take from the first. After the First World War, what happened? It just led to the reshaping of Europe. Their maps were reshaped. Empires were broken up. New countries came up. That was the essence of the First World War. What did the Second World War do? What the Second World did was to then bring America to the fore, together with the USSR as the dual power. What did what's called the dying of the Soviet Union do? It projected America as the superpower. Now we have a situation where we are on the edge of a multipolar world, and this multipolar world is now introducing actors that are not Germanic, that are not from the West, China. And it's shaking the very foundation of these Germanic people. And so, in my view, that is the most important issue with this Iran war. Because you see, after 1945, the US came up with a new, because you see, international law has always been there. International law has always been there, geopolitics has been there. But before 1945, international law was essentially what customary international law and probably treaty-based. After the First World War, Woodrow Wilson, the president of America there, attempted to create the International League of Nations. It failed. Now, after the Second World War, America, you see, just before the Second World War ended, in the meeting of Yalta, where Stalin, FDR, and then Churchill met, a new world order was created. They attempted to create a new world order, and you see, the culmination of that was in the creation of the United Nations Organization. They laid down fundamental principles. Chief amongst them was the principle of sovereignty, equality, a prohibition against war. That was the order they created. You understand? And they created that order understanding, because I'm telling you, they've always understood geopolitics, and then they've always had the edge to dominate the other peoples of this world. The advantage they've had is that they've been waging wars against us, and we've all been sleeping. Because conveniently, they befriend some of us. When I say some of us, then I mean the non-Germanic shall use race or people of thanks. So they will come and be told, so at some point in history, they were friends with Iran, Persia. You understand? At some point right now, they seem to be friends with Saudi, what's called the GCC countries. But there are other Arabic countries that they are waging war. So it's very difficult for us to realize what is happening. That there's a grand agenda, and that grand agenda is to perpetuate the domination of these Germanic people over the rest of the world. And we should not be swayed by, this president will come and no. They are all aligned to that agenda. And when it becomes critical, you see all of them aggregating together to perpetuate this agenda. In fact, US and Israel have attacked Iran against the clear terms of one of the fundamental principles of the UNO Charter, which prohibits the use of force, and it gives the clear exceptions. And I don't see any of those exceptions justifying why you attack another sovereign country. And yet, there has been just one UN resolution since the war. And that UN resolution is not to condemn this brazen act of aggression. The UN resolution is condemning, strangely, Iran's counter-attack on US forces, on US interests within the GCC area. And when you go and see the voting, that's why I was even disappointed. 15 people voted, 13 voted for, and 2 abstained. Russia and China, they abstained. They abstained. And yet there has not been any condemnation of this attack on the international order the US itself led to create. We need to wake up, I swear. See, we need to wake up. In fact, if there's a time for Africans to start talking critically about the kind of African Union Kwame Nkrumah envisaged, then the time is even in the past. Because we claim that we live in a world that is equal. Every country is sovereign. In fact, fundamental customary international law says that where you have a president, and that a president is immune from the kind of things America did to Maduro. But here the US went into somebody's country and just picked up their head of state against the clear terms of customary international law. And this was the first time they did something to Noriega. What they did to Kwame Nkrumah, in fact, that one, I always say it was brazen. People always knew. But right now we have CIA declassified information. And there was a clear breach of fundamental international law. You talk about this nuclear thing. See, there was an agreement in 1967, a treaty. The treaty against the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. Now, in fact, that was one of the most unfair treaties ever signed. Because before 1967, we already had certain countries that already had developed nuclear weapons. Indeed, the US is the only country in the history of the world that has deployed and used nuclear weapons. The other 5 countries, Russia has it more than the US. They've never used it, and they've never used it. As well, like Russia has never been to war since what's called the Second World War. Even in this, their war against Ukraine. Even in this, their war against Ukraine, where you can clearly see the hands of the West in how the war. The only reason why Ukraine has managed to sustain this war is the massive support is being granted by the West. I guess they have not deployed nuclear weapons. China has had it before 1967. China has not deployed it. Now you go and sign a treaty that says that, listen, going forward, nobody should be allowed to create nuclear weapons. But to make this treaty work, we'll divide the world into two. We have people who already have the nuclear weapons, and we have countries who. So once you sign on, there's an obligation on those who already have it to start disarming those nuclear heads, and those who don't have it, no, don't. And since then, more countries. So India was not part of those 5. India has it now. Pakistan has it now. Israel had it, and they had it post 1967. And North Korea, who initially signed, also have developed it. You get a picture. Now those down per the clear terms of that agreement, the US and the rest are already in breach because they signed the treaty. And for the terms of the treaty, they ought to be disarming the nuclear warheads that they have. Are they doing that? So if you are saying that one of the fundamental principles of international law is equality, then if you are going to have nuclear weapons, then what stops me from also having the nuclear weapons? Because in terms of war, those of us who don't have it will be perpetually weakened. Because what is at stake right now, what is happening right now, is a war between the UN Charter, the principles of international law, and the geopolitical power. America is telling the whole world that, listen, in spite of the rules, because I have power, I can breach them and you can't do shilly. Didn't you hear Donald Trump saying that in his first term? What he did was to strengthen the US army, military. That there's no might in the world as powerful as the US. And because of that might, that's why they can to locate and terminate. So they located Ayatollah and terminated him together with all against the clear terms of the world order they themselves led and created. That is what is happening. A perpetuation of the domination by the Germanic people against the rest of us in the world. So what are we waiting for? How long are we as Africans going to stay there and allow fragmentation to keep on weakening us? Don't we see the evidence? If in 1957 probably we didn't understand what was at stake. Even in 1963, when Osajo said that either we unite or we perish, if we don't understand the inherent threat Can't we see now? What excuse do we have to still be keeping these little weak countries that really are not independent? We are not. And you see, and also in the characters of what globalization does to the world now. Because in time past, if Israel and Russia were fighting even about 100 years ago, in which way was that going to affect us? But right now, one small bomb thrown in a country more than 10,000 miles away from you impacts you. And yet, when you look at Africa and what we have what it takes to become a global superpower. If you see the sense in being truly united, because Nigeria has oil, also Angola has oil, Gabon has oil. You go to the Tripoli, Libya has oil, Sudan has oil. Most African countries Ghana has oil. Now, how was the nonsense happening there going to affect us if we agreed to the advice that Nkrumah gave us? It's all gold between Ghana and South Africa. Arable land for agriculture. Just Congo alone, River Congo alone, can supply energy for the entire globe. Rare earth minerals. The reason why America wants to take over Greenland. And see that America it's been on their books for a very long time. See, we should not be deceived. It's been on their books for this point. You see, that's what I'm saying, that this is the biggest evil that can be done to you, is to find yourself in a situation where somebody is at war with you and you are not aware. Listen, I know we are too interested in small battles and we always lose sight of the bigger picture. Even in Ghana and how we do our politics here, we always fight over little things. But the bigger picture is there, the bigger agenda is there. I wish Africa, if the rest of us are afraid to, we should quickly find a way, first of all, of bringing about a resolution to condemn this brazen aggression, not just by the US and Iran, but by the Germanic people. Because you talk about Israel right now. Now, when the Zionist movement began, there are people who claim that Benjamin Netanyahu is even an American. The people who are in Israel right now, do you in any word doubt that they are part of the Germanic tribe? Because some people are coming and say, oh, they are Israelites. and they've gone there. They've been in Europe for so. See, when you read the Bible and they describe Jesus Christ in the Bible, they said he had, in fact, King David. And the Bible says that King David had hair as wool. These people who claim they are descendants of David and others, their hair is not woolen. Their hair is silky. The Bible said David's skin was like bronze. So, Benjamin Netanyahu is a skin bronze. The Aramic people. Well, there's history, there's archaeology, and so we know. Are they truly the so-called, the proper Israelites, Jacob's children? Are they? And are they not part of? Because you see, they're so strategic. They're so strategic. That's what I'm saying. That when you go to America right now, sometimes they talk about independence, the colonization, and you understand. But can you even make an argument that America was ever colonized? They want to kill, they want to clear the natives there. They want to clear the natives there. Then they took the people and went to populate New Zealand. You see the strategy. So you take the globe, the northeastern bit, this Anglophiles, and then later the Germans came, the Dutch came, and all those people. The same German went to conquer America, the north. Then the Spanish, the Italians, the Portuguese took South America. So they are there. Then the Anglophiles again, they took New Zealand and took Australia. And then they put some of their own people right in the middle of the Middle East. With one agenda, to continue the domination that the Papal Edicts, Papal Bulls, Vatican decreed way back in the 15th century. And that is what it has taken now. So for me, we ought to understand what we are fighting against. See, I don't believe in the international order anymore. You shouldn't take them seriously. They make treaties, and the treaties, they breach the treaties like they don't exist. But there's no way we can fight them if we remain fragmented. There's no way we will not continue to be dominated if we remain divided. There's absolutely no way. I can tell that the rest of the non-Germanic world is looking up to Africa, because we have everything. We have the people, the youngest generation, very sharp people. And history has proven that a lot of the discoveries, the so-called scientific discoveries, were actually done by Africans. We have the land, arable land, huge land, huge. We have the resources. We have everything. All that is required is for us to understand what is at stake and to have the leadership that has the courage to subjugate a bit of the sovereignty for the ultimate purpose of uniting us. That's all. Other than that, they will tweak the world order like they've been doing. Although they did it slightly in the First World War, it was still they themselves in domination. They tweaked it a bit in the Second World War, still domination. The Cold War era, the post-Cold War, they tweaked it again, same domination. And now they see the rise of China, forgetting that in the history of this world, China has been one of the oldest. See, sometimes we talk as if, but who created the what's called gunpowder? Mathematics, science, and very long. So they know their history. So they see the rise of China, and the overtures China is making to us, the non-Germanic people, and it scares them. So because of that, they attack Venezuela, Maduro, they'll clear Iran, and after they've done that, I don't know who they'll come after. So for me, I'm going to end here. And I'm going to end by saying that we do not have any excuse to continue being fragmented. And I call on Ghana, because for a very long time, Ghana has been at the leadership of the Pan-African agenda. And that when you want to become president of this country, you must understand the burden that this agenda holds on you. And that immediately, we need to, first of all, as Ghana, stop this useless MPP, NDC, inter-tribal fights. You understand? Get ourselves united, one first. And two, then lead the achievement of the Pan-African agenda. Because unless and until we unite, then this Western domination, this brazen Western domination, will continue. I don't know what it would do to us. I am here.